Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Sorry to cut in on your lunch conversation, but we have a little presentation right now to digest your lunch, you know? And we're actually running late. So Steve and Marion have agreed to cut it down even shorter than originally discussed, which was about 2 times ago. So we really need to get going. So welcome. This is the session on building a university community partnership to address workers' compensation system inequities. And we have with us to speak briefly to this, 2 longtime advocates, Steve Mantis and Marion Endicott. As you know, I'm going to read the thing that everyone knows about Steve. Steve was injured in an accident in 1978, losing his left arm. And he went through WCCB system and basically discovered how difficult it was to basically find justice for injured workers. As many of you who were here heard last night, as he was laying in his hospital bed, he reads the manual on workers' compensation board documentation to find out what's what, which is real dedication and a good time of good use of time. He, in '84, helped found the Thunder Bay and District Injured Workers Support Group, and he's been active ever since to improve the lives of injured and disabled workers across Canada. Since mid-90s, Steve has been building links with academics to study the consequences of work injury, and he is presently the chair of the Research Action Committee of the Ontario Network of Injured Workers. And then, with great pleasure, I'd like to introduce Marion Endicott, who's worked for 40 years at a community legal clinic in Toronto that's dedicated to injured workers and workers' compensation issues. And in that work, she represented injured workers in the compensation claims at the WCB and the Workplace Safety and Insurance Appeals Tribunal. Through the decades, she's engaged and worked with injured worker community in law reform activities, from marching in the streets, yay, to presentations to government inquiries. She's one of the founders of the Bancroft Institute for Studies in Workers' Compensation and Work Injury. And the both of them are here working on worked on a SSHRC research-funded project, the Research Action Alliance on the Consequence of Work Injury. I think you can see these on your tables, and this relates to that research. And apparently we found the answer to who killed Sir William. Can you put up your hand? There you go. He claims that he did. So there you go. So, I hope that you'll enjoy the presentation. I'll leave it to the 2 of them to speak to this issue, and take it away.
Thanks so much, Elizabeth. Just kind of check the technology. Okay, look, this is better than at home there. I can't figure out how to do my TV. Why we wrote this book. Okay, so we're not really going to talk a whole lot about the building of a community university research alliance, because it took us 8 years to write a book about how to do it, and we have 10 minutes to talk about it. So what we're going to do is encourage you to get a copy of our book, which is supposed to be out this week, which is about this 6 to 8 year partnership, depending on how you look at it, that was funded under SSHRC, the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council. As Elizabeth mentioned, the project was called the Research Action Alliance on the Consequences of Work Injury. And why why did we write the book? So we have been working for at least 25 years with academic researchers to try to shine a light on the lived experience of workers and injured workers. And along the path, this partnership that we had that ran for that 8 years was unique. Lots of individual projects, lots of good things, many challenges along the way. But within the context of a sustained long-term relationship, things developed that we never knew about. We never knew it could become what it became. And it's funny because it feels like it set the stage for today. It created a foundation of relationships between our injured worker community and leaders in the academic community, and it spread. It spread from those academics to their students, who are now professors and PhDs, and it continues to spread. And so the reason we wrote the book was because we thought, my gosh, this was an incredible opportunity that has not been able to be replicated. We need to document what happened and how it happened so that others could try to replicate this going forward. The talk this morning and throughout the day is, what are we going to do after this conference? What are we going to do? Well, what part of the advice from our book is we need to build relationships. We need to go home and say, I met 3 more people here. I now to keep in touch with them and see if we can work together. That we create opportunities for us to come together and share what we're doing, but also go to the next step and now plan what are we going to do together. So that's one of the steps we're kind of advocating that we move forward on. And the process was one of the 2 of us working together. And what was kind of so important about this was that we got to play off each other. We wrote this book in 2 voices. This is a book from the perspective of the community. There's almost nothing in the literature from the community about how to engage in a sustained project with researchers. Almost all the literature is from the academic side. And we need to understand both sides and understand and be able. You guys on strike? Is it lunchtime? So in a way, as advocates, we're so far focused on doing the change, advocating, pushing. This book gave us an opportunity to step back and reflect. What worked and why did it work? And we go into great depth, really following our process over that number of years about how to make a sustained partnership happen when there's great inequalities in terms of power and resources, skills, but overcoming the barriers that we have in our community and that happen in the academy. And as we went forward, we wanted to make sure that it was not just our voices in the book, Marion and I, but we have a collection of the voices of other participants, both workers, advocates, and researchers. Marion, some reflections on writing the book.
So, you know, Steve said, Marion, we've got to write this book. And I said, oh. And anyway, I found myself the next day booking myself a flight to Thunder Bay. I live in Toronto. He lives in the bush outside of Thunder Bay. And I spent a week there with him. With his partner, Barb, was tending to looking after the cooking and stuff. And we brainstormed like mad, and we filled in index cards of what did we want to capture in this book? What moments, what key ideas, what concepts? And, you know, in preparation for this, I didn't count the index cards, but, you know, there was probably 200 index cards that we then shuffled around and figure out how are we going to put those into the book. And so if we had more time, it would be fun to reflect on some of those concepts. But one of them I just do want to mention, and that is the idea of gems. And we do highlight that in our book. So one of the processes in the research RACWI project, this research collaboration, was that at the beginning of meetings, gatherings, we would go around the room, especially at the beginning, and have everybody speak. And at the beginning, when we were fresh on this, that sometimes it took half the meeting. And the academics, we were a little nervous. They might get agitated. Why are we spending so much time going around the room with people talking? And but anyway, it was important. It was an important part of building the trust. And but then everything that was said there was so interesting and so inspiring, so compelling. But it was lost because it wasn't minuted or anything like that. So Steve and I were walking away from one of those meetings one time, walking home, and reflecting, what do we do about that? And then we had the idea, well, you know what? Those things, those comments are full of gems. So we have gems. So after that, at the end of meetings, we would always say, what were the gems of the day? And people would just shout out what the gems were, and we did jot them down to remember them. So that's just a little bit. And then we did want to include in the book the perspectives of other people who were involved in the project. And so we have one chapter dedicated to voices from other people. So here is one. This is from, I'm going to grab yours, Steve, because it's more available. No, I'm not going to grab yours. Sorry. There it is. So here is one, and this one focuses about learning about history of workers' compensation in the project and about injured workers' struggles. The project introduced the history of our compensation system, and many of us learned who Sir William Meredith was because of the RACWI project. The historical compilation and research done by Professor Robert Story of McMaster University, called Their Only Power Was Moral, was a wonderful tool the project incorporated into a speaker school, which I had taken part in. So many injured workers now know intimately who was Sir William Meredith, and I think we look at him as an ancestor, as we all adopted him as one of our own. We injured workers are related and bound to one another because of our workplace injuries, and Sir William stands as our beacon that guides us, reminding us of that daunting task of the search of justice for all. And that was from Peter Page, injured worker, the Ontario Network of Injured Worker Groups in Hamilton, and Injured Worker Speaker School instructor.
So another voice in the paper was from Bonnie Kirsch, who's a professor at the University of Toronto. And she talked about working on this project was one of the highlights of my career. As a tenure stream professor at a major university, I've been following the academic imperative to lead grants, publish papers, and communicate with other academics and leaders at conferences and scientific meetings. But there was something missing for me: the connection with people confronting real struggles that was so much part of my world before entering academia. I'll never forget how we learned about deeming and the harm it causes injured workers, often causing them to spiral into poverty. To help us begin to appreciate its impact. Of course, we were far from truly experience its impact. We role-played and became injured workers approaching the system, bandages and all, only to be denied support, each one of us in turn. It was infuriating. We shared the emotional impact and the determination to make things right using knowledge as power.
So we're out of time, actually. Well, we have maybe 1 minute left and a couple of minutes for any questions people might have. But we would like to make a comment on what people have said about the book so far. And so here is one from Bud Hall. He says, "Who Killed Sir William is a remarkable story of a community-based participatory research project. It is one of the best pieces that I have encountered anywhere of a community-led telling of a story of CBPR activism, a towering achievement." We were very glad to get that review. That's Bud Hall, co-chair of the UNESCO chair in community-based research and social responsibility in higher education, etc.
And from Barb Neese, who has been with us here for the last 2 days, she talked about this book is an engaging and thoughtful exploration of the importance and potential of community-based research done well, and to contribute to the knowledge, awareness, and mobilization of social justice. To have a resource like this built around a sustained and successful project focused on injured workers is a huge bonus for those of us who work in the field of occupational health and safety. You know, there's so many things that came out of this partnership. This is just a bit of a list, and we've talked about some of these previously. As we've gone along, we never gave up on the community work, on being out on the street, having our voices heard, being able to bring these issues forward. And, you know, we're in the middle of writing the book sometimes, and we had to stop because there was issues we had to raise right now that wouldn't stand still. And that's one of the lessons too, as well, is this is real life. This is real live people. And we can't just go in our, it's not an ivory tower, it's like a cabin in the bush to reflect on it. We need to engage over and over and over. And this book is what we hope will help us engage more deeply. It's kind of a how-to manual to really have the community an ongoing, sustained part of a research project over years and years and years that can actually make a real difference in the lives of the people now.
Okay. I was going to talk about the community engagement as well, and we are out of time, but I do want to add in that extra piece that because this was so embedded in the community, which was so active, it was constantly bringing freshness to the research project. You know, it never stayed with that some original meeting of brainstorming. It always developed, and the injured worker community was constantly bringing in, kind of the latest from the front line, so to speak.
So take home a flyer. On the back is a website where you can actually purchase the book. Maybe tomorrow. It says July, but we got word last Thursday that it's going to be next week. So like, oh my gosh, we're so excited. So share our excitement. And part of the project is we got a website to go with the book. We're looking for your stories. We want to post your stories about engagement, about injured workers and health and safety to keep the discussion going, learn from each other, and come together in solidarity to really bring justice for injured workers. Thank you so much.
So we have time for maybe 2 very quick questions. Any takers? Oh, how much is the book?
Well, it depends where you buy it. So our publisher is Friesen Press. It's available first at their bookstore. I think it's $25. Evidently at Amazon, it might be $35, but it's not on Amazon yet. So there's only one place to get it, and it's around $25. Exactly. We need
right.
more entrepreneurial work here. And then
Very good.
donate that money back.
Anyone else? Another question? No? Oh, okay.
Are you signing copies of the book?
Well,
Right now, I am virtually signing any copy you have, so you can just translate that once you get the hard copy.
That will be
if you
another
get a book,
$15
bring
for
it to a
you.
future conference. Happily sign.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
So can I have a round of applause for Marion and Steve? Yay!